Hello, everybody. This is Naser from Artemia and Aquaculture Research Institute, Urmia University, Iran. At first, I would like to thank FAO, Royal Academy for Overseas Sciences, ANSO, NACA, and International Artemia Aquaculture Consortium for inviting me to this international training program at FAO headquarters. Unfortunately, I could not make to come because of visa problems. Therefore, I'm sending this video recording, and I hope I can fulfill my duty with regard to this international training program. I'm going to talk about Urmia Lake, Iran. Most of you know Urmia Lake was considered as the second largest natural biotope of Artemia in the world, with over 5,500 square kilometers. It was hosting a bisexual Artemia called Artemia urmiana, and also at the same time coexisting with a parthenogenetic Artemia. Urmia Lake was hosting also 11 different types of algae and many different strains of halophilic bacteria. Every year, hundreds of thousands of migrating and local birds used to visit Urmia Lake and enjoy Artemia meal. And also Urmia Lake had about 100 islands, small and big islands, where different types of animals, mammals, reptiles, amphibians used to live. Professor Patrick Sorgolos and his team from 1991 to 1995 made a resource assessment of Artemia in the Lake Urmia in the framework of a contract with the Iranian Fishery Organization. And they reported that annually more than 3,000 tons of Artemia cyst and over 300,000 tons of Artemia biomass are produced in Lake Urmia. But unfortunately, the lake started drying from 1995, and within 20 years, Urmia Lake lost almost 90% of its water, and that caused a severe effect on Artemia and on birds, on mammals living in the islands, and also the lake was converted into a very vast salt desert. And what were the major causes of Urmia Lake desiccation? We can say that there are three important factors causing the Urmia Lake desiccation. Number one is the natural factors, that is climate change. Global warming also affected Iran, and especially also the northern part of Iran. But in that area used to be among the coldest regions of Iran, with lots of snow and rainfall every year. But unfortunately, from 1995 onwards, we suffered a very severe drought and very reduced snow and rainfall. And the rainfalls were mostly under 5 millimeters, which evaporates very fast. And at the same time, temperature increased by 1.5 to 2 Celsius, and also the evaporation increased by more than 11%. Many different scientists consider natural factors like climate change as one of the very important factors having role in drying of the Lake Urmia. But however, we believe that human factors having much greater role in this natural disaster. Expansion of agriculture from 350,000 hectares to over 650,000 hectares, which is irrigated mostly by traditional systems. Drilling over 90,000 wells, which withdraws lots of groundwater every year, and shifting agricultural activities to water-intensive crops that consumes lots of water every year, and also construction of many dams in Urmia Lake Basin. 54 of them are active currently, and therefore all these things that they have done by the human being, they have indeed using more than 90% of the available water in the region. But there is one other factor which is very important, but it was hidden from the eye of authorities. That is internal factors, changes in the lake geomorphology, and also changes in chemical composition of the Lake Urmia. I will come back to these two factors later, which are very important in our project and program. In this figure, you can see that it is from Sumayya.com, that it shows that how the expansion of agriculture affected Urmia Lake desiccation. From 1960 to 1970, there were no reservoirs, no dams, and agriculture was based mostly on natural precipitation. But from 1970 until 1995, many dams were constructed and the reservoirs volume increased to 900 million cubic meters. And during this period, 370,000 hectares of the lands they used to be irrigated system. Before that there was no irrigation, but in this period 370,000 hectares were irrigated, and therefore the water consumption increased a lot. And also from 1995 until 2010, which is the period of Urmia Lake drying, again the construction of dams increased to save more than 2 billion cubic meters of water, and also agriculture also increased by to 510,000 hectares, which is irrigated lands, as I said, and of course it continued still until today to 650,000 hectares. So this means that most of the water has been used by agriculture, and therefore Urmia Lake received much less water and started drying up, and therefore the ecosystem was affected, and especially Artemia was affected very badly, and therefore the Artemia population and the density decreased very much compared to the early years that when Professor Sargulos did the resource assessment. In 2014, the government established a group, a committee called Urmia Lake Restoration Program, and with the request of this committee, 27 national projects were approved by the government, and of course with huge funding, and they were supposed to save the Lake Urmia within 10 years, first 2 years as stabilization period, and the next 8 years for restoration period to reach an ecological level where Artemia could survive. But the ULRP could not, and they failed to restore the Lake Urmia because they could not improve the inflow of water to the lake. They could not save any water from the agricultural activities, and they had no plan for reducing the surface evaporation. And also they did not pay any attention to the changed geomorphology of the lake. And here you can see that since 1994 until 2023, Urmia Lake lost almost 95% of its water volume. And in these satellite pictures, you can see that every year in the month of May, we had maximum water volume in the Lake Urmia, and in the month of September, just 4 months later, most of the water is evaporated and Urmia is getting dry and dry. But in years when we have a little more precipitation, more rainfall, and Urmia Lake receives a bit more water, and that is the time that Artemia again hatches, the cyst again hatches, and we can observe a very good population of Artemia. So this means that there are lots of Artemia cysts embedded in the lake bed among the salts, and they can hatch anytime when there is good inflow of fresh water into the lake, and they can again make a very good population of Artemia urmiana and parthenogenetic Artemia. And here you can see the continuation of the same satellite pictures until 2024, and this is the latest picture again we can see that Urmia Lake is drying. I mean, this is a very wrong circle, you know. Every time government spends millions of dollars to bring water to the Lake Urmia, and immediately after 4 months we are losing most of the water. So how long this wrong circle should be repeated? This is our question from the government. Monitoring studies and research we have made in Urmia Lake, so I will give you the results here. Professor Sorgelos visited Lake Urmia many times, and based on his recommendations, we did monitoring of the lake time to time. After the studies that Professor Sorgelos himself with his team did, we did 3 times monitoring and resource assessment of the Lake Urmia, and the last one finished only 2 years ago. And during these studies, we studied the changes on water chemical composition, salinity, pH, temperature, depth, lake bathymetry, density of unicellular algae, density of halophilic bacteria, Artemia cyst in the water column, Artemia cyst in the lake bed, and also density of Artemia biomass in the Lake Urmia. And one important thing we did was collecting a core samples, about core sample of 4 to 5 meters from the bed of Urmia Lake, in order to find how much cysts are buried in the salt in the bed of the Lake Urmia. And we found that in the north part of the Lake Urmia, I mean northern part of the causeway, until 170 centimeters there were no cysts at all. But from 170 centimeters below, we could find a lot of cysts available. But on the south wing, we can see that immediately from the first few centimeters onwards, we can find the cyst, and after about 1 meter, we have observed lots of cysts available in the bed. So that's why that when there is any water inflow from the rivers into the lake, they are dissolving some salt, and immediately the Artemia cysts are hatching, and we can observe very good population of Artemia. And in 2020 and 2021, with the last resource assessment which we did, we found that maximum number of the cyst is observed in the month of November, and also maximum number of biomass in the month of June. But of course, as I said, due to very high salinity and evaporation of very fast evaporation of the water, the biomass doesn't exist more than 3 to 4 months. Our studies resulted into 3 very important findings. The number one was the changes in the lake geomorphology. We could find that sometimes every year, the lake bed comes up by about half a meter. So therefore, we could see that in different parts of the Lake Urmia, the thickness of the salt and the minerals is more between 2 to 5 meters. And the lake chemistry has changes in the summer significantly from sodium chloride to magnesium chloride. Everyone knows that Urmia Lake is a sodium chloride lake, but it also contains lots of magnesium. Sodium chloride sediments, precipitates at the salinity of 280 to 300 grams per liter, but magnesium stays in as solution, and only when by end of summer the salinity goes higher than 480, at that time the magnesium chloride sediments to the bed, and the magnesium chloride is very hard to dissolve. And the number 3, we found a huge number of cysts available in the bed of the Lake Urmia embedded with this in the salt. And this is in fact a good source of Artemia cyst available inside the Lake Urmia, and it can help in reestablishing or rehabilitation of Artemia in the Lake Urmia. So how this geomorphology of the Lake Urmia changed? See here, I will try to explain this phenomenon. Here you can see the 3-dimensional view of the Lake Urmia. The deepest part was in the north here the depth was, in 1974, the depth of the lake was about 16 meters, and in the other deep part was in the southern part, where the depth was between 10 to 12 meters. And now, if you consider this as a vertical section of the Lake Urmia, here the depth was about 16 meters and here about 12 meters. And we know that during first 20 years of the evaporation and desiccation, this level of the Lake Urmia decreased by about 8 meters. So if we are losing 8 meters, so here we should have another 8 meters of water. But when we studied the depth in different parts of the Lake Urmia, we found that the maximum depth here was only 2.2 meters. So, in fact, here we should have about 8 meters of water. So what happened to this area? So here I will explain how this geomorphology has changed. Again, this you consider this as a cross section. We know that Urmia Lake was a very salty lake from the beginning, and it contained lots of salt dissolved in the water. And when the precipitation starts, every year one layer of salt and other minerals from the rivers are sedimented to the bed, and most of the sedimentation is taking place to the more deeper parts of the Lake Urmia, and therefore all the deep portions of the lake are filled completely with more than 8 billion tons of salt and other minerals. And that's why the Urmia Lake has been converted into a very flat playa. This here I will show you that how this happens every year. When there is the water enters from the rivers, it fills very vast area because it is very flat and the water spreads all over the Lake Urmia. But just after 4 months, when by end of the summer, again Urmia Lake loses most of the water, and every time one more layer of the salt and minerals are added to the earlier layers in the bottom of the Lake Urmia. So how we can restore the Lake Urmia and how we can restore the Artemia population. So here I will give you two examples, Aral Sea and also the Great Salt Lake. They have done a partitioning of the lake. So in Aral Sea was a much bigger, of course, compared to Urmia Lake, but it was drying up completely, and therefore they made partitioning by very big dike. So they first filled the northern Aral, small Aral, and in the second phase they tried to make the western Aral second region. So by this way, by partitioning, they could at least save 2 areas of the Aral Sea. But however, we know that Aral Sea is still losing its water and still drying is continuing. So I think our colleague from Kazakhstan will give much detailed information about Aral Sea. And of course, the second is the Great Salt Lake, where by partitioning to the Great Salt Lake into 4 parts, each with different functions, they are protecting, they are safeguarding the lake, and also they are protecting Artemia, and they are producing lots of Artemia every year. So based on the research findings that we did ourselves and also the international experiences, we propose an adaptive phased restoration of the Lake Urmia for safeguarding the lake and also for rehabilitation of Artemia population. As I said, the bed of the Lake Urmia contains lots of Artemia cysts, and we just need to bring some fresh water and stop or at least reduce the evaporation from the lake surface so that we can have again a very big or dense population of Artemia. So this is the time we can use the causeway. So Urmia Lake is divided to the north and south by a causeway, and there is one opening. The opening is about 1,800 meters. So what we are proposing that initially, if we can close by a dike this opening and save in the beginning the southern part, because most of the big rivers are terminating to the southern part of the Lake Urmia. So by dividing, and also we can help physically to dissolve the water, dissolve the salt here, to make it deeper and with a smaller surface area. So the aim is that the amount of water which we are having now, it is about 2.5 billion cubic meters of water, which at present it spreads over to more than 2,500 hectares, 2,500 square kilometers, with an average depth of less than 1 meter, and it evaporates very fast. So we are planning to keep this much water at a smaller area in the south of Lake Urmia, so that we can have a deeper part and also with more fresh water to help Artemia to develop again. So here again I'm showing you how we are proposing to do it. The rivers, as I said, mostly they are coming to the southern part. This is a canal which is transferring another river. So at first, by constructing the dike, we can fill this much area. This area is about 1,400 square kilometer. But when we are filling this area with 2.5 billion cubic meters of water, we have the depth of almost 1.8, 1.9 meter in average. So when there is evaporation of every year, we have an evaporation of about 90 centimeters. So still more than 1 meter is already remaining, and next year again we are receiving this much of water. So in just 2 years we can have a permanent water body here at about 1,400 square kilometers, with lots of Artemia developing in this area. And also, and after that, from the spillway which will be there in this dike, we can add the extra water to the northern part. So by every year we can add some more water to the northern part, and finally we believe that in just 5 years time, with much less water, we can save at least 2,500 square kilometers of the Lake Urmia, and the southern part will have the ecology similar to the ecology which we had in 1974, but the northern part will be super saturated, which will be used for the salt extraction. So the benefits of this project will be that ecosystem will be restored in half of the Lake Urmia, and also exploitation of Artemia resources can start, and also the minerals could be exploited, and this can bring lots of job for the people in the area, and also lots of financial benefits to the people. By adaptive phased restoration of the Lake Urmia, we believe an emergence of a dense population of Artemia in the south wing of the lake, with a minimal annual production of 500 up to 1,000 metric tons of Artemia seized every year. And we expect FAO to support this brilliant idea for safeguarding the Lake Urmia and saving its Artemia population, which can support Great Salt Lake in fulfilling the need of aquaculture industry to Artemia cysts. We propose a project with collaboration of International Artemia Aquaculture Consortium on feasibility study of partitioning of the Lake Urmia, aiming at studying the effect of partitioning on the rehabilitation of its natural ecosystem, with an emphasis on Artemia, studying the effect of partitioning on creation of jobs to improve the livelihood of villagers and young jobless university graduates, and also assessing the results on improving the aquaculture activities in Iran. As we know that in Iran, the shrimp farming and also sturgeon farming and marine fish farming are developing very fast, and every year we are using more than 50 tons of Artemia cyst, which is imported now. And by saving the Lake Urmia, at least a part of the Lake Urmia, we can meet all our demands, and also we can help the international aquaculture industry. Thank you very much for your attention. And if there is any questions, I think Patrick can answer you because he knows everything about the Lake Urmia. And also I'll be there on the Wednesday meeting to join the discussions and also reply any other questions. Thank you very much.